We're outside the Thunder practice facility. We're 1 hour away from the trading deadline, and Darnell, right now, they've traded no one. There for a while looked like one of the biggest moves in franchise history. They acquired Tyson Chandler. They go through a medical exam late Wednesday night and determined that he's not healthy enough to commit to $27 million over 2 years. Do you see anything happening at the very end, or is this one of those we had a lot of talk for a month and nothing at the very end?
I think there's still a possibility we might see something. We just asked Scott Brooks after practice before they boarded a flight to Phoenix whether or not Chris Wilcox and Joe Smith will join them in Phoenix, and he said we're going under the assumption that they might. So, I mean, he didn't say that we're going on the assumption that they will or won't. He said they might. So he's not even sure if they're going to be with the team. They weren't at practice today. He's not even sure if they're going to be with the team tomorrow in Phoenix. So something still could happen with those two guys. And,
of course, Tyson Chandler is going to be the big story, not talked about just today. It'll be the next year or two, because a lot of people say if it's a turf toe injury or is it something worse than that nobody's letting on, because this is a guy you could let the turf toe heal for 8 months and then you have him for 2 years and he's the exact thing this team needs. What's your opinion on why this thing fell through?
Well, I covered the Hornets for 2 years when they were here in the aftermath of Hurricane Katrina, and I remember watching Tyson Chandler battle that toe injury when he first got it in 2007. He missed the last 8 games of that season because of the injury. There was a point in time where he could barely walk on that foot. So this was an injury that he had surgery on in April of 2007, and it hadn't gotten any better. So the doctor who did the surgery was the one who was with the Hornets at the time. So I think that that because of it's a lingering injury, I think this was something that really was really too severe to risk 20-something million over the next 2 years.
Well, I'll play devil's advocate, though. He played on that same injury last year, only missed 2 or 3 games, had big playoff production, had one of his best seasons ever. A lot of people will say, well, he played all right last year. What makes you think all of a sudden it's going to go south now just because of what's happened the last month? I mean, how do you see that part of it? Because he has played well since he had the toe surgery 2 years ago.
Yeah, but this whole season has been plagued by injuries for Tyson, and the fact that it's reoccurring. Like I said, it happened in 2007. It's popping up again now. It's just too much of a risk to take on when you look at what he's making next year and the player option he has for the following season. I think that the Thunder made a wise decision when you look at how much money Tyson was owed. It's just not worth the risk.
The last question would be, if they do not trade Joe Smith or Chris Wilcox, expiring contracts, those are valuable assets that just go out the window. Yet Sam Presti has said repeatedly, we're only going to get players that we think can help us long term. He's just not going to make a trade to make a trade. But is this still a major disappointment if you had 2 assets you ended up not trading?
I think you have to look at it as a major disappointment. I mean, they've had all season to trade one or both of these guys, and they know that they've had these 2 assets, and if something doesn't happen here before 2 p.m. Before this deadline, I just think that's a major disappointment because you get nothing. Now, Sam Presti has said that he's willing to go into the offseason and let these contracts expire and just use the cap room, but the fact that you don't get a draft pick, whether it's a first or second rounder, a young player, a veteran player who could come in and sort of mentor the young guys, Kevin Durant, Russell Westbrook, and Jeff Green, I think you have to look at it as a disappointment.
That'll wrap it up. Be sure to follow News OK and the Oklahoman newspaper to see if they did anything right at the 11th hour. And then also the team's getting ready to leave with Phoenix. Well, Darnell's going to Phoenix himself to cover the 2 games this weekend against the Suns and then another West Coast game. So be sure to read his coverage in the Oklahoman.